Loading fun bun. Rabbit is electrifying.
Alrighty everybody, I'm about to go ahead and start. I gave it a while. Hopefully you're all comfortable. Let me go ahead and switch to the right thing. I'll find the right button. I'm sick. There we go. I forgot to do the little intro thing, but my camera's slightly out of place. And I almost knocked over a bowl, so that's fine. Alrighty, so As you see in the title, I'm sick. Let me see if I make sure the camera's a little more centered than it was, but but yes, I'm sick, and I didn't get much content out this week, and I'm still in the middle of a job search, which very honestly has me kind of stressed. So all the factors combined, and moving things around as I go right now, I have a fun drawing I want to do, just to lighten the mood a little bit, and share things what I can. And weird, apparently there's a lot of people getting sick right now. For me, I think it's just that I was doing too much. I'm not used to this much activity. Normally, I'm inside all the time, and now having to go travel a lot. I have an adrenaline rush usually during all the errands and stuff. Because also I'm doing a lot of driving for my sister to work, or taking her from work. So I'm exhausted. I get exhausted pretty easily. I still recovering my strength from before, so yeah, I wanted to do something relaxing, and I didn't get to post anything this week, so I thought this would be a little fun thing to do, because once I find the job, finally, the place I first applied, Michael's, had a great interview, but they may not be open to hire until October, like mid-October. So I'm going to keep searching because I really want to find somewhere soon. And once that happens, I know I'm going to be having to fit that schedule. So I'm doing what I can here now because who knows what's going to happen later. Things are going to change. I know that. But I want to stay active at the same time. I agree, Birb. Thank you for saying that because I'm surprised how nervous I am in this in-between phase. I'm glad you do a believe for me because... I felt good during all these interviews, and because I'm comfortable with interviews, they're fine, and I feel confident enough about the jobs themselves. I'm just waiting for one to finally, say yes. So that's the difficult part, but it's just the in-between phase. The anticipation is what's getting me. So, and then I got myself exhausted to the point of sick. So what I plan to do today, let's do a little, I forgot to click the video intro. So let's do that now. I didn't expect my webcam. For it. There we go. Okay. So, I don't know if you all remember. Some of you may not. Let me go ahead and pop out the chat real quick to make it easier to see you guys. Click the button. There it is. Okay, this will help. And make sure the chat window is visible for me. Alright. So, yeah, I'm going to be redrawing a character I've used multiple times here. I don't know if he looks familiar to you guys or not. Let me read over the chat a little bit. Again, I'm sick. My sinuses and forehead and all of that are like in pain right now. So also I'm not very alert and everything's just really off. Birb believes. I like that. B. Birb believes in Bunny Boy. Okay, I like that. I'll go with that. Easy to remember. And yeah, Onyx, you're saying that worse though is that if they'll say they'll look into your resume and they don't call you back. Yeah, the way I've learned it with jobs, I'll have some small talk right now. The way I've learned it, I'm off camera. Goodness, camera, why? Okay, let's adjust that camera. Come on now. Come on. That's a little bit better. Why is camera so weird? I'm not picky. I just gotta get it. As long as I'm in frame. Let's see if we can maybe turn it a little bit. That helps. Okay. There is a reason that this character probably looks familiar. Hi off camera. I'm on camera. Are you, Birb? Is that you? Are you that little owl in the corner? The way I've learned it is don't ever expect them to call. Just go visit the place that hired you. That's the way I've always done it, is that after you've done the application, just go to them and do it multiple times, because the way I've learned it is that you're now going to be in their memory if they've seen you multiple times already. So that's the way I've always approached it, and I've been doing that. I've been traveling to the places to talk to them. And yeah, I've already called them back multiple times. And the one that's most likely to hire me right now is Michael's. They have a teaching position open because apparently Michael's gives classes. I didn't know they gave like private art classes, and I can do that. So I was like, hey, I can do that. And I can also, all the other departments like cashier, sales floor, framing department, all that stuff I'm really comfortable with. So my fingers are crossed, but I'm still going to apply to other places too. And it's exhausting and pretty stressful, to be honest. Yeah, Michael's Arts and Crafts. I'm trying to apply there. There's one really close to my house. And yeah, I would love to give little lessons. Apparently they're one-on-one lessons, as well as all the other departments, like cashier. I've done cashier and sales floor for years. I did that for like 5 years at Target. So I'm comfortable with all of that stuff, and I just really want to find a place. One way or another, I'm going to find a place soon. And once that happens, my whole schedule is going to go crazy. I just know it. Like, it's just kind of a given. I know things are going to be all weird and busy. No, well, if it's a surveillance video, you're all different types of camera. But yeah, the main reason that, well, I'll write a little hint in the corner, just in case you guys will know this. But I don't want to give everything away. I got to make things fun. But yeah, I originally drew Mr. Fit a long time ago, like maybe episode like 10 or something of my Patreon lessons. Yeah, Birb caught it. Birb caught it. I did Mr. Fit. I can pull up the picture right here. When I was talking about fox anatomy, you guys have maybe heard that a couple times now, where animal anatomy is actually extremely close to the extremely close to human anatomy. I'm also reading the chat, keeping my mind focused as possible. And so when you learn human anatomy and learn the basics of like your own bones, of like figuring out how your legs and your feet and your hands are all like the anatomy of that, that's making it way easier to draw a fox or a cat or any kind of quadruped mammal, because I see a lot of people struggle with the anthro leg right here. A lot of times they'll see that and just think it's the most difficult thing in the world. They'll think there's some sort of extra joint or something like that, which there isn't. It's actually just someone standing on their tippy toes. And I gave an example here with photos just to really emphasize it. This is the anatomy of a fox leg, which is very similar to a cat leg or a wolf leg or a tiger leg. And bears, most mammals on all fours. Actually, same with lizards too, a lot of them. And we learned once with birds, we did a bird skeleton anatomy, and they also have the same bone structure in different lengths. Some of the legs, some of the bones are a little longer or shorter, as you can see here. The extra joint, as we call it, is actually just the foot bones. And so you look at someone about to run track, you can see how his body slightly resembles fox leg. And so in order to make this easy to remember, I came up with the character Mr. Fit. He's a fox in training. Actually, I came up with the character, but I think Jak is the one who named him, because I need to learn how to name characters. And now, yeah, I see the point you're making there, Ulrich, of saying that you don't want to look desperate in trying to get the application, but I do think it's good to visit them multiple times, whether calling or visiting, because you want to be in their mind, fresh on their mind. Because to me, it also shows more enthusiasm of that, oh, this person actually wants the job, as opposed to, you know, someone who just does the application and interview, but then just waits on them. To me, it's better to go ahead and show your interest, show enthusiasm. It's different for every person, and different places are probably going to have a different preference. Each individual store will probably have a different hiring manager's attitude. So one of them might be, I prefer calls. Another one prefers in person. Still reading over the chat. Right, thank you there. I didn't see anything mentioned in here so far, but still reading over the chat, just making sure I didn't miss anything, because a lot of stuff happens in chat. And I'm making sure I actually call everyone. Make sure you call the places you've been to, camera. And yeah, I've been mentioning resume and mentioning it as enthusiasm, but waiting for them to plan a schedule, because they did say like, oh, come back in a week, because then you can catch our hiring manager. A thank you letter to the interview people. I don't know how to go about that. That's an interesting method. It might, I don't know how compatible that is with like retail stores and stuff like that, but also I really appreciate that, Onyx, hearing that you think I'd be good as a teacher. I try to be. I'm still learning, but I'm confident with the material, so I want to do it. And yeah, Jak names everything. He doesn't hold back, and that's kind of the key with drawing and naming anything creative, is just do something first, don't worry too much. And so I wanted to redraw Mr. Fit just to make this fun, because I've been sick lately, and I wanted to liven things up. This is another public one that I don't normally do. So yeah, he's more or less becoming All Might from My Hero Academia, because I had to have fun with it. He's also kind of reminding me, because I wanted the fox ears to be part of a, like, on a bicycle helmet. The joke being that Mr. Fit, he really wants to be a fox in training, to the point where he's a little ridiculous about it. But his tail is being held on by a belt, and he probably bought that at a local store. He probably glued on some cheap ears onto a bike helmet. That was my gimmick, and I like it. It's to me, it's kind of charming, easy to remember the character. I also drew him ahead of time before starting this episode, because I needed to make sure I could draw today. Because part of this being sick is a bad headache. So I didn't draw much at all yesterday. I just laid in bed. And today I think I can draw for a little while, hopefully to entertain you guys, because I have another character I want to draw. Another one as well. Right off the top of my head, I kind of want to talk about shading, with a D. Though I could talk about muscles. How to be thick. Well, one type of thick. There's a lot of thicks out there. And every thick is thick, so it's okay. I have talked about muscles actually a lot on the Patreon channel. And I can go over some if you guys have questions. I try to keep these open to whoever's in chat. As a reward for you guys being here, you guys get to ask the questions. That's how I always run Patreon whenever I do private lessons. There's a bunch of changes coming when I get a job, when I finally get the other job, but for now, that's the method I go by. It's the method to my madness, is you guys ask questions and I answer them. I am still finishing up pictures, leftover commissions and everything, trying to get those done before the job. And yeah, and Mirkus are bringing up that it's kind of difficult to figure out which place works. It does kind of depend on where you are. And like I said, it sometimes depends even more so on each individual manager. Because when Michael's, they said they preferred people calling. But I still liked visiting because I want them to remember my face. I like going into the Michael's store anyway because it's awesome. That's another reason I want that job, is because I'd actually care. I would be really motivated about a place where I love art supplies. So, and why is the sky blue? I know it has to do with the atmosphere, the way it refracts light. I'm not a science channel. I love science videos, but I'm not a science channel. So that's all you get for that sass. But it's okay, I do like science questions. So you get a point for the science questions. Care about the job. But I did want to talk a little bit about the shading. I think I've talked about it a couple times as well before. Again, if you guys have any art questions, I'm probably more reliable there. I can give you random tidbits of other stuff, but yeah. It's going to be up to where you want the most emphasis. Trying to think of... Let's continue looking. Yeah, it's the way the light refracts. Not reflects, refracts. Talk about fake science? Oh dear. Are we going into that? Are we debunking? Or are we spreading false rumors? I like the former. I'd rather debunk. Not that I have any credentials, but it would be more fun to debunk. Simulation implied at Sam Ash. It's a music store and they have percussion. Ooh, there you go. Exactly. I think it is like, and it's kind of important to anyone who's worked a bad job. It is kind of important to, even if you end up accepting a job you don't want, keep looking for a job you would be more passionate about. Even if it's still within retail or something that's low entry, pick something that's at least kind of interesting. You deserve that. And it's not always the first job you get or the third, but I think it's worth to aim for that. What is the type of shading where you shade using directly black instead of darker colors? Yeah, that's exactly the... It's just cell shaded with heavy shadows. There's not like a specific term. Comic books do it a lot, which is the reason they do it in My Hero Academia, specifically on All Might. And you kind of have to experiment. Let's lower the opacity here just so I can do it again. But one thing is, we talked about this last time, where I mentioned think about the objects that are overlapping. Wherever objects overlap, that's your biggest chance to put shading. So if I've got a big helmet right here, overlapping his head, first place I want to put shadow is underneath the edge of the helmet along his eyes. Most characters have noses, so put shading on one side of the nose, depending on how big you want the nose to look. The eyes, if you hide the eyes like this, that can usually make a character look kind of creepy, which is why they always have All Might laughing, because then he at least feels kind of funny, and then they try to make him making lame jokes and always striking silly poses. Therefore, he feels funny, and they quickly reassure you he's a good guy, not a bad guy, just because the shading looks a little mysterious. There's a strap right here on the side of his face, so I put a little bit of shading there and to emphasize his cheeks. You actually think that I think that it's going to be way more effective the less you put, because it's easy to get carried away, especially if you're shading with on a big picture. Sorry, I'm sick. I'm trying to collect my thoughts. It's easy to want to shade the edge of everything, but don't. The shading is going to look better if you are very picky about where you put shadows. So far, I could count maybe like one, because this is one whole area here. I've got like 1, 2, 3, and maybe throughout his entire body, I'll have like 10 spots of shading, and that's it. Like maybe I'll put one in the armpit here, because that's a huge pocket where his arm overlaps his chest. Put shading there. I might put it on the side of his shoulder. I don't know if I want to put any here. I could. I have put a little bit. I could. There's an overlap here on his belt where his hand is, because casting a shadow onto his body. But you don't actually want to put much shading. Maybe I could put it on his groin right here. Maybe at his kneecap. But it's going to stand out better if you don't do that much. I've seen a lot of people get carried away with shadows, and you can do it, but it's tricky. And so if you're having trouble with it, don't put so many shadows. Exactly, otherwise the picture will get muddied and the whole picture will just look like a bunch of black everywhere. Just all these shadows. First job being lifeguarding. Well, you'd have to be good at swimming and be okay with being out in the sun a lot. When working at Target, I was out in the sun a lot with the parking lot, and it pushed me. The first year, I could almost not handle it because I didn't have the stamina. And I had to learn to be way more hydrated and just exercise more to handle it. Because Target has a huge parking lot, and you're having to just constantly walk. And so, yeah. Yeah, being outside can be really exhausting. Hence why I got sick this week. So, yeah, Ulrich, you're saying that you're hatching and cross-hatching lately. For experimental stuff? Yeah. Definitely for textures. Like, if I wanted his outfit to look like leather, anywhere I wanted to put shading, I would be just doing little tiny marks like this. I'm really fading the line so you can see what the shading I'm doing. But if you're trying to do cross-hatching but you don't want it to look like a weird texture, be sure to make all the shading go in the same direction. Like we're doing these little hatching lines. Keep it in the same direction. Because if you hatch like this, or do a bunch of weird lines like this, now that becomes a texture. It looks rough. So if you want smooth cross-hatching, keep it all going the same direction. And again, if you ever have artist block, be sure to just fill sheets of paper practicing this. See if you can go, okay, what's the smoothest I can go from dark to light? Just practice. See, I messed up. See how well you can do it and build that muscle memory. So yes, yes, you could say, Bird, we are talking about muscle memory. Because if anyone thinks that, art is so difficult, why do some artists draw so fast? It's only because those people have muscle memory. So if you feel complete artist block, no idea what you want to draw, just fill a sheet of paper, random scrap of paper, with just trying to shade. Or draw a million 3D cubes. Just try your best of like, okay, how fast can I do it? Just fill with random shapes because you're going to build muscle memory. Yeah, pen art is difficult, but at the same time, it can be really rewarding when you make something look nice. Cross-hatching can be perpendicular, yeah. It can, per pen, this is a pen, sorry. You can also do a bunch of directions. Like here's one direction, it's all parallel, but you can also do it in weird diagonals. There's some like cartoonists and pen artists where they'll do like 4 different directions depending on what they want the effect to look like. And with me, if I were doing some weird rough leather texture and there was a part of it that needs shading, I would keep it all this way and then get really, really layered when it gets towards the shadow. You can still kind of see the texture, but it's getting darker and darker just because I'm layering more lines. As you can see right here. So yeah, that's one trick. It doesn't have to be perpendicular, but yeah, you're right. The quickest way that I've probably done too is just going perpendicular. So yeah, you could probably put shading underneath his belt a little bit because it gives his... Anything you put shading on. Okay, let's go ahead and put a pen is going to make a shading rule that you can follow. You don't have to. But, my opinion, only put shading where you want there to be some weight. Actually, yeah, I'm definitely going to stand by that. Think about that the next time you're about to shade. Do you want it to have weight? How much weight? If you don't want it to be a heavy object, don't put much shading. It's not just literally giving it like, oh, it weighs 10 pounds, but also like how easy your eye can see it. In art terms, weight refers to like how easy it is to see. And if I put a huge shadow on his shoulder, right now I'm putting a huge shadow. Even like, you know, on the side of his face, just like this enormous shadow. Just really gonna exaggerate how much shading. If I put a huge shadow, your eye is gonna go there. You're gonna look at this picture and one of the first places you're gonna look is right there, because that's a lot of weight. That's the art version of weight. So, camera's so high up. There we go. So yeah, next time you're about to shade, don't do it yet. Think, how much weight do I want to give this? then figure out if this is something that shouldn't really be that obvious. Don't put that much shading. Like with the belt here, it is a cool belt. I do like this belt, but I don't really know if I care about it that much. I'd probably want them to look more at like his face or his logo, because I'm randomly proud of that. So I might put some shading on his pecs. Those huge pecs. So yeah, that's where I'm probably going to put more shading. I probably wouldn't put that much on his shoulder. That's a bit much. So yeah, think about where you want them to look. It's why all art rules are useful, but you can break them if it's a good effect. So you guys, everyone's probably heard me say that way too much, but it's true. All art is just about what effect do you want. Keep seeing what is hatching is just parallel lines, and cross hatching are the perpendicular, basically. You see hatching and think of birds. I mean, birds, if they dipped their little, I said paws, if they dipped their talons in ink, they could probably do good cross hatching. The DSi flip note, I've never gotten to use that, but it looks really cool. Yeah, I've always wanted to try that. Nintendo social media yesterday, flip note was mentioned. Yeah, it looks really cool. I want to draw a bird with paws one day. It's like, bird, what are you doing? You're drunk. Your body's drunk. Go home. Why do you have paws? Actually, that'd be kind of cool. But yeah, it can be fun to add shading, so I would probably still add, like, you know, little hints, or like his kneecaps. If there's a muscle that really bulges that I think looks cool, go ahead and add that. But just, yeah, be careful on it. Try to analyze the picture first and think about where you want the audience to look. Think of it like that. Think of where you want the audience to look and just put shading there. I think he's pretty close to done. We've more or less got our Mr. Fit in shape, and he's got a bunch of shading next to him. Let's see, do I want to... Yeah, let's just leave it like that. I'll keep that on his own layer. Okay. A griffin. yeah, fair enough. I'll call it that. Yes, bird, I did see that. I like that emoji, Ulrich. Well, both of them. But also, yeah, I saw the deer. Dill, I think you said he's going to be called. If I got that right. I hope. Especially like those antlers. They were really cool looking. Yeah. But I need to collect my thoughts. Okay, so maybe I'll just fade his layer. You can kind of see him there. The other character I want to draw today, let's see. Okay, good. We're at the 38-minute mark. Remember, if at any point you guys have a question, let me know. Normally, this is reserved for only patrons, but right now, I really want to include you guys just because it's, I guess, incentive, but also just nice to include you once in a while because it's fun that way. I do... Eventually, maybe I'll, you know, have more traction on Patreon. Right now, I really need the support. It's also why I'm getting the other job. There's always a link in the description to that. Because I am trying to make more content for you guys to enjoy. And every little bit does help me a lot. Because I don't want to make the other job full-time unless I have to. And that will depend a lot on Patreon, so. The other character that I want to draw is Corgate. This was another character that Jack named because he's good with names. He is a dragon who specifically is a wyvern. We were talking about wyvern anatomy because he was in the middle of creating a wyvern character. And see, this is the thing I want to do on Patreon for you guys, is that if any of you are working on something or just have a really nagging question about how do people do that thing in art, then I can show you what I do. Jack was wanting to know anatomy for like side view and weird front view angles of a wyvern, so I specifically went over that. And kind of by accident, we created this wyvern beauty who has I guess, a shoebox, little toilet paper horns, and little button eyes. And then we named him Corgate, which to me reminds me of Colgate. which I thought was funny. Like, maybe he's a bathroom dragon. He just, like, was born from the supplies in a bathroom. But then Jack pointed out that corrugate, like, corrugated. And I was like, oh, okay. That's also that's actually a better, interesting reason. But yeah, I'm going to try and draw corrugate for the second half of this episode. But letting you guys have questions as I drink something and rest my voice a second. Hope you're all doing okay. Hope you're not sick. Being sick is bad. I've taken a lot of vitamin C, though. Drinking a whole lot of water. I've kind of made it a rule in myself of I'm never skipping Patreon videos. Since it's normally a paid thing, I just... Even if I'm sick, I've had a lot of episodes, actually, where I was really out of it, or I had plans, and I was like, well, I'm still gonna do it. And eventually, I've thought of wanting to do more casual streams again. I want to do more casual streams during the week. And might also try, if I can find enough games. We've talked about some gaming on PB&J, which is something upcoming. If you know what it is, good. If you don't, surprise. But also might try stuff on Twitch. At least it comes to my mind. I haven't been on Twitch in a long time, and I might try it again just for fun. We'll see. Yay, Alex is here. Welcome, Alex. Good morning. Good morning. Guten Morgen. I hope I know I butchered that. Guten Morgen. That might be how you say it. Mirakusa can instruct me better, because he actually knows German. But okay, I think I have a lot of ideas for how to draw corrugate here. He's essentially just a wyvern, and at the moment, it's just his head that is made out of random objects. Toilet paper rolls, shoebox, and buttons. I think I can come up with a few more random things. Oh, and his spikes are clothespins. I remember that now. So, now that we've drawn our wonderful Mr. Fit, Mr. Thick. This is Mr. Thick, his alter ego. Thank you, Mirakusa. I know I was bad at that. I need to learn my German better. I haven't had time to practice, though. That's the big thing I'm needing to... In life, I'm needing to find time to take a break. Ooh. I've been wanting to draw Bowsette as well, Alex. I finally watched a video explaining what that's even about, and now I know. In case you guys don't know and haven't seen a video yet, Bowsette, I think it's one of the trailers they showed from one of the new Mario games. There's a crown item, and if you collect the crown, it showed Toadette collecting it and turning into someone who looks like a Peach and Toadette fusion. So then people said, well, what if you fused Peach and Bowser? And then Bowsette was created, and there's a lot of fan art. I love that it's almost official, even though it's not. I'm loving it. I'm hoping it's a thing. We'll see what Nintendo does. They probably have their own plans, but yeah, that's the quick synopsis of what I've learned Bowsette is. She is the fan art so far. There may be a real version later when the game is released, but there's a new Nintendo game, and that's what's going to happen. Oh, it was a Malaysian artist. That's cool. See, the more you know. That's awesome. All right. Time to draw corrugate. All right. Let's figure out what pose should he be in. I want to give him an epic pose. Let's have the head wrap around this way. That's always an epic pose. I remember why I drew him like that. It's because you guys know whenever I draw simple shapes and use simple sentences because I can't talk. But I use simple shapes to figure stuff out because drawing is hard. Does not matter who you are, drawing is hard. And yeah, basically it's Bowser with the power princess crown thing. Whether it makes anybody a princess or it fuses them with Peach. We'll see what the official definition is later, unless they already have one. But when drawing simple shapes like this, I then was lazy and actually kept the simple shape, and that's why corrugate became what he did. So, simple shape, figuring out his pose. I'm drawing some lines of action. OG Bowser is best. I don't know. It depends. Some of these Bowsettes have been pretty good. I might be undecided there. Just saying. You can all have your own. It's fine. It's fine. I'm not gonna. You like what you like. Everyone's allowed to like what they like. Bowser's amazing. I always play with him. I play as Bowser on Mario Kart, so I do agree. You good. So I also was drawing simple shapes to figure out his horns. But maybe I just like the design. Maybe I don't have to be attracted. You think about that, Bird? Anyway, it's fine. It's all in jest. Don't worry. I am the least aggressive person you might have ever met. There's probably others, but I don't generally ever sass someone with the intent of, like, yeah. I'm overanalyzing now. Anyway, I might make these tissue rolls bigger at the end just to make them stand out better. Actually, I'm changing these from toilet paper to paper towel. They will be paper towel rolls. I do not know your sister, Birb, but I do agree Mart is definitely... he's such a calm fella. I'll agree there. Simple way to make this look like a cardboard toilet or paper towel roll is just the diagonal corrugation, I believe, is the lines. And yeah, I'm going to probably add a little bit of shading, but like we said, where do you want people to look? I don't want people to look at the top of this paper towel roll immediately. So I'm going to keep these lines kind of thin. I do want to add shading, but don't get carried away with it. That's kind of the rule there. And I might add some simple shading. Whoops. I forget the rotation tool is a thing. Might add some simple lines here, just to give it a little bit of weight. But again, it's just a paper towel roll, and that's pretty lightweight. So I don't want people to look at this immediately. So if I were shading with colors, I would be using something really light. I would have low opacity, and I would not be putting much on it. See? It looks 3D, but it's not going to compete, because I want people to look at the face, because beautiful dragon face with his little button eyes. So I might cheat and have his button eyes kind of standing up. I kind of like that idea. Let's draw just a weird oval, because I'm trying to make it look 3D. I'm going to add that little edge and connecting the edges so that now it looks like the 3D flat shape. And that was kind of contradiction. Going to draw the little dots for where the button thread will be. And now I might go ahead and draw some lines like this, and then take a, whoops, come on, there we go. One trick I do for drawing thread or rope or something is I draw a thick, just a thick line, take an eraser, and erase inside of it. That's my, see, now I have a suddenly smooth edge to this line. See, I zoom out, look at that. It didn't take long at all, and I didn't have to worry about like super thin, exact lines, which are stressful. This was way more relaxed. So hopefully that little trick will help you. I hope. And usually there's a little bit of a rim on the inside of the button, so I'm going to do that, which will be thinner as you go far away. This side is close to us. This side is far away. So this side is thinner. This side is a lot thicker. We're using the word thick a lot today. I'm okay with that. So zooming back out, after I've gotten that button, and it's a good button. I hope you find your button, Snape. Me too, Ginger One. Me too. I love that. It's been so long since I've seen that. Kind of want there to maybe be some strings like this, holding up the button against this cardboard box. It almost makes this feel a little morbid, like those are the tendons on his eyeball. Maybe. Maybe. That would actually be kind of cool. And then maybe there's a hole cut out in the side of this box. Now again, this is the inside of a box, so there wouldn't be any light, so you'd want to shade this completely black. But I don't know if I want people to look at that part just yet, so maybe I'll start thin. Hello, Hattie, welcome aboard. Sorry for the burp. It's normally not a public stream on Fridays, but I'm doing it today because I want to share things. And once the job finally lands for me, and I get that place, that job, that schedule, I don't know what's going to happen with my internet schedule. Because I'm still trying to finish commissions and all that, but yeah. So for now, I'm trying to share more. And also, if you guys don't want me to work full-time and want to see me be able to make things more often, Patreon would help me a lot, which the link is in the description. I'm doing my plug. I'll stop. But I do need to learn to say that more often. Because I'm still very undiscovered on Patreon and stuff. So, okay. I'm adding a little bit of shading there. See, just enough to get you to look there, but I might add more shading on the button itself. And this is where you can break rules. You can be a rule breaker if it gives you the look you want. I want people to look at the eyes first. So I'm going to add way more shading on the eyeball. And maybe that's what I need. And notice, I did this little shading right there, not because it makes sense, but because it's useful. Think about it. If I were shading this button, this is where realism can fail. Ooh. It gets me excited, breaking the rules. So, if this were lighting, here's the light. If that's where the light is, clearly the shading would be down here, because that's opposite. And see, that makes sense. That's realistic. But I don't want his eye to look that way. I would rather have his eye, add it up here so it looks like an eyebrow. I'm going to trick you to think this is an eyebrow. Because now look, I zoom out, and you almost feel like there's a little eyebrow there. Just a little, oh, I'm a dragon. And so, because I did that, it's a little, just visual trick there. It still feels 3D, so you're technically adding some 3D shading and stuff, but I'm not going to add it to the rest of his button because I want it to look like an eyebrow. And so there's a little trick. I don't think I added much to the rest of this cardboard box, so what will his nose be? Huh. Maybe there's, I was going to say maybe there's literally shoes in this shoe box, and the little tag at the end of the shoe is his nose. Maybe. I don't know if that's going to compete, if that's going to be weird, but we could try it. There's the bit of a shoe. Maybe, I don't even know you can tell that's a shoe. Maybe if I do this. Let's add a little bit of a circle and a star so that it looks like a Converse. Universal shoe is a Converse. Hashtag not sponsored. I wouldn't mind being sponsored by Converse, because I learned that they made Gorillaz shoes. Because I've randomly been binging a lot of Gorillaz lately. I love their music. And yeah, hey, I see that, Red. Welcome aboard. I am indeed sick, but I can't skip Patreon lessons. And I wanted to share this publicly again in case when my job happens, I might be really, really busy. So, yeah. I guess it looks right. It kind of looks like a shoe. If someone doesn't know what it is, oh well. That's okay too. Everyone knows with a cardboard box for shoes, you can put the lid at the bottom of it whenever they're on display. So I'm going to use that as his jaw. Ooh. See, that was an accident, but I like it. There we go. Oh, now he's adorable. Adorable little shoe dragon. I don't know. And again, maybe I look at it further and I kind of do want some further shading on his horns, so let's actually go ahead and add a little bit more. But I'm this time only adding shading because I want them to look in this direction. So the more shading you put, the more weight it has and the more people are going to look at that part. So I'm going from light to dark because I want people to go this way. Maybe there's a little hole here where it connects, so I'll put some shading there. Maybe I'll add a little bit of shading, which is just like 2 or 3 lines, on the rim of this cardboard box where the lid is. Again, I'm purely using shading only as a rule of where do I want you to look. So it would be nice to make you look more at his eye, but I don't want to add too much more shading. Maybe a little bit more here. There we go. I think that's okay. There we go. Again, it's easy to add too much shading, and right now I don't want to do any more. I want to wait a second and see how this looks. So we've got this. I think this pose is a little boring. I'm going to tilt it. Maybe he's looking off in the direction. I want to make it more interesting. Or maybe he's looking up. Nah, I think I'm using it looking down. I'm changing it more to an angle because it's more interesting if he's doing this and looking kind of this way. It's more interesting. If you just have him completely robot, everything's flat and symmetrical, that's going to be not as alive. So if you can change up angles and make things tilted, you know, lol, you mad, bro? Just if you can tilt the picture a little bit, that might help. So let's see. The next thing... Oh, yes. Okay, here's the original Corrugate. His spikes are... his spikes are made out of thing. What are they called? Clothespins. So I'm going to draw some clothespins. They're very weird looking spikes, but hey, I'm not going to judge him. He's fine. There we go. Clothespins have that little spring in the center. So I'm just going to literally draw a bit of a swirl to do that. So there we go. There is... Whoa, eraser's too big. Got that. There's spike number 1. I guess we can go ahead and have one more up here. They might randomly get bigger just because I want them to. There we go. There we go. And again, any art questions you guys have, I can probably find a way to bring it into this. That is normally what I want to do. And I'm trying to say stuff as I go. Drawing Corrugate. I'm going to make him epic. I hope. Stitches just above where the heel would be for teeth on the dragon. Ooh. How can we put stitches there? It wouldn't normally make sense to have stitches on the cardboard box, but that's a good idea. Let's try that. You know what? He already has clothespins and a random button, so we can be weird. Let's try that. Let's try that. I like that, Cody. So let's add some stitching on the cardboard box, just because this is going to remind you of teeth. And I'll see how this looks. Let's try it out. It does kind of help. It does help. Huh. I could make it weirder and start adding threads like this that have been sewn like this, so it really feels like teeth. Yeah, let's try it. Let's try it. You got to experiment. Even on the biggest picture of your life where you think it's going to be this is the one, this is the big picture. It's easy to get in that mode, and so you're afraid to try anything new, and you're too nervous. It's like, you really need to erase and experiment more, even if it's a big, epic picture. You need to experiment more. You're going to discover more that way. And so now we're adding stitching in the other direction. We're basically making little teepees, because that looks like stitching on his first teeth. Also, it just looks kind of cool. It's reminding me a lot of Coraline. It's also kind of reminding me of, what else is it reminding me of? I'm trying to remember. I think the movie was just called Robots. I saw it at the vet. The vet we go to always has movies on in the waiting room. And because my girl Vivian, my little baby kitty, she's getting spayed next week, and we had to take her to the checkup. And while I was waiting, they had that movie on, and I noticed their robot designs were very like, here's a head, here are the eyes, here is the mouth. And you would like see little parts put together like this, and then there'd be a little antenna. You could see like a line down the middle where the bolts were connected. This kind of feels like Clank from Ratchet and Clank right now. That's what this guy's reminding me of as well. I'm just going to leave that there. Why not? Okay, getting more of those clothespins. They're kind of going in an arc. Normally with spikes, I like the idea of them going in an arc from small to large, and then they get smaller as you go down. I kind of like that arc. Makes it more interesting to look at, feels more alive, etc. Gonna add just a few more for the effect. I do want to add a little more, so suggestions are also welcome. I'm glad you suggested that, Cody. I can tell in the future this is what I want to do with Patreon more often, is also just create drawings with the patrons. We've done a few of those already, and those have been fun, and I want to experiment more like that. So you guys get the sneak peek. You get the, yeah, I'm glad to do this. I feel like his neck needs to be made of something. Something obvious. Right now I'm wanting to make it like a little, some sort of tube, but I can't decide what yet. So I'll add one more clothespin as I'm thinking. And actually, because his neck is twisting, if we turn on our X-ray vision, you can see that they would start going behind him, facing the other direction, in this kind of dotted line, because his neck is turning like that. It's twisting. So the spine is visible here, but then it isn't visible on the other side of him. And because of that, the clothespins are going to disappear. They're going to go behind him. So this next one isn't going to be that visible. We're only going to see a little bit of it. And now it feels 3D. See what I mean? It kind of like hides behind him. It's like, whoop, can't find me. I'm a clothespin. We use clothespins a lot around here because we don't have a working washing machine. So we have to hang our clothes to dry. So I'm very used to looking at clothespins. We'll still figure out what his neck is made out of. Let's move on to the actual rest of his body, making him a dragon. I want to draw one of his wyvern wings. And this is where you can get into really sketchy stuff. I know there'll be some sort of... I want to have a wing here that's kind of outstretched. So I'm drawing a very vague shape. Let's see if I like these vague shapes. Ooh. It'd be cool to show the back of his wing right here. That's a really weird pose, but I like it. It's like he's doing this. It's like he's dancing. He's like a cactar. See what I mean? He's like a little cactar. Maybe he just noticed this robot head and he's confused. You know, that's a... oh, whoops. I gotta select it. There we go. Maybe he notices this and he's very intrigued. So, yeah, that's why I'm doing these sketchy lines. I'm trying to figure out the pose first. Okay. Trying to draw his collar, where his neck is going to be. The end of his neck, where his shoulders are going to start. Figuring out his rib cage. Rib cages get smaller as you go down. So they start big at the chest, and then the rib cage gets smaller. So I'm doing that. It's kind of like a little triangle, almost, for his ribs. And then I'm going to put the middle of his rib cage helps me figure out which way he's facing. So I'm going to put a little bit of his sternum right there. The middle of his rib cage. And there's his collarbones. Little Big Planet. It does remind me of that. Yeah. Good. Okay, in that case, I want to... Maybe his neck is just made of a cloth material. So let's go into some cross-hatching. Let's give this that leathery... It's more like a yarn. I mean, if it's Little Big Planet. So maybe his neck has been sewn together. Let's try that for now. That would explain why he can twist his neck. Well, not twist his neck. It's morbid. Give him X eyes. It's like, oops, I'm dead. I twisted my neck too much. Even household items are breakable, and I should have remembered. When you're trying to use cross-hatching to do a texture and not shading, it does kind of mean you have to be careful to make it all even and kind of smooth looking. My lines aren't perfect. They're clearly not perfect. You can see how they're like one's up here and then it tilts and they're not lined up well. But they're close enough that it's going to look like a smooth texture. And I'm going to start light, and then if I need to, I can add more. And if this is difficult to you, just practice sheets of paper Just fill it with random stuff like this. If shading is difficult, or cross-hatching, or anything you're trying to do, just fill a sheet with random nonsense of it. Because that'll be easier. It's kind of easy. It's an easy way to relax. It's a good way to waste time in the middle of class, like I did whenever I was bored. I would do a page of notes just so it looked like I was busy. And then I would fill the side margins with random doodles. I am not a good influence. I'm sorry. Stay in school. Actually, that's a whole nother topic. I won't go into that. But yeah, if I wanted to add some shading here, or the folds of cloth, if this is cloth, I'm going to add only some folds where I want there to be, where it's bending, where he is twisting and causing the cloth to fold up. So I'm going to start to add more lines only where his cloth is folding. And it's only going to get dark at the corners, at the pockets. And it's going to be darker as I go up because I want you to look up. Cody's saying making a patchwork dragon of different household items. Yeah, it is turning into that. So yeah, this is clearly some sort of cloth. It doesn't really make sense at the moment. We can figure out what this is later. I'm not too worried. It's fun. I would like it to look like something. Right now it just kind of looks like a sleeve. Yeah, I can't tell what it is right now. But that won't stop me. Sometimes you just gotta move on. You can't worry too much about, is it the best idea? Maybe I'll just do something for now, and then later on I'd come up with a better idea. If you get too hung up on one part, you're gonna ruin your flow. You gotta keep your mojo. Gotta keep that mojo. So, yeah. Maybe he's also dancing. You know, I'm looking at him, and this is just... I can't escape it. He just looks like he's dancing right now. This is a dancing pose. I can't think of normal context where you'd be doing something like this, unless you're cosplaying a cactar. So, I'm going to make him dance. This is now going to be a disco ball. As of right now, this is a disco ball that floats. And I hear some weird cross-hatching that maybe you all have heard this name, maybe you haven't, but this is going to be called contour. If you've ever heard the term contour, when it comes to drawing, it's basically covering your object in a grid or any kind of lines so that you can feel the 3D shape. And it also happens to be what a disco ball looks like, so that's convenient. But in general, I need to make an episode about contour lines. They sound random. It's like, why would I want to put a grid on my object? It's so that you can feel a 3D shape and figure out where shading goes. Because sometimes people can look at a 3D shape and go, I don't get it. And I've had moments where I got stuck. I was trying to put like a pattern on a shirt, and I had no idea how to do it. I was like, what? This is so weird. How do I put this pattern on a shirt? So you add contour lines on top of it. And there's ways to do that. I need to make an episode about that one day. Let me rest my voice because my voice is tired. But the point being, if this dragon's going to be dancing, he needs a hat now. What kind of hat? Whenever I think of hat, I want to add a top hat. I don't know if that makes sense, but I kind of want to do it. Maybe top hats are overrated, but I like them, so there. I'm creating a new layer just so that I can try out the top hat. You can go to the clothing store, the costume shop, and try out different outfits. Right now I'm trying a top hat, just to see if I like it. It would kind of compete with his horns. We'll see what I do there. Excuse me. Maybe I'll cheat. I don't know. We'll see how I can make this work. That's why I'm putting it on a separate layer, so I can kind of figure out where it goes. So, and if this were on paper, if I was drawing on just a sheet of paper and you don't have a computer, draw on a separate sheet of paper or get some sticky notes or scraps of paper. Try drawing there instead so that you can test something out before you put it on your official drawing, on the canvas, on your sheet of paper. Before putting it there and discovering a mistake, try doodling it really quickly on a sheet of paper, separately. And so that's the way I used to do it before I was on computer. Because I didn't get a computer at all until after high school. Before that, I was never on a computer to draw. So, yeah. I do want to go over a lot of, like, how to draw, but not with a computer. I do want to talk about that stuff, too. There we go. I think I like it. I think I like the top hat for now. And now I do want to make it a little more 3D, so I'm going to round the top of it a little better. I'm going to round the top of it a little bit more, so it looks like it's at an angle. Come on, eraser. There we go. Okay. Because it's at the top of the character, it's facing away from us, so contour lines would say to go like this. If you want an object to go away from you up top, up high, like if you think of a big column, a big pillar, it's going to get smaller as it goes farther away from us. And if it has stripes on it, for some reason, the stripes are going to go upward, and they're going to go smaller and smaller, closer together as they go further away from us. And there is a cloud. See, it's really far away. Rapunzel, let down your hair. See? Up in a tower. There's the tower. Looks more like a light tower. Who knows? That doesn't really look like hair. It looks like a tongue. Let's put eyes. He's a silly snake tower. There we go. It wasn't Rapunzel. It was a lizard the whole time. Okay, so that's why I'm putting contour lines there, so that it's easier to figure out the shape of the hat, especially since top hats are going to have a weird curve to them. They have a little piece of cloth that wraps around, and in order to get that shape correct and make it look 3D, I think of contour lines, as you see right there. Okay, and now we can add a little bit of shading depending on where I want them to look. I do want you to look at the top hat, so I will add shading, but there's also that stripe of cloth. So maybe I want this to be a white top hat, and I want you to only look at the shading of the ribbon. Maybe that's where I want it to be. Hey, Jack is here. Welcome aboard, Jack. I'm glad you couldn't make it. And Alex saying drawing on a sketchbook and drawing block before having the big drawing. Yes, that is really useful if you need to practice something or plan ahead. I'm glad you could make it, Jack. I'm glad. I knew you had plans, and I didn't want to disturb the plans. I want to also show you, real quickly, Jack, I want to show you Mr. Fit. Yes, mainly because we didn't get to do a stream this week, so I wanted to do something. And here is what we did the first half, Jack. Mr. Fit is Mr. Thick. So I had fun recreating Mr. Fit. He still follows the rules of anatomy, where here is the... come on, Richard. I can think of my brain. Come on, my words. The upper arm, the forearm, his hand, and his fingers, which is how it pans out here with Fox Anatomy. So that's why we had that, in case you missed that earlier, everyone. I had to recreate that on Mr. Fit. And he was just fun to draw that way, so yeah. Now we are drawing Corgate, and we're making him have more textures. And talking a little bit about cross-hatching, where to put shading, and where you shouldn't put shading, how to think about it. Basically, where do you want the audience to look? If you want the audience to look at something, add shading around it. If you don't want them to look there, don't put much shading. Because I've seen some people, they really want to shade, but then when you see the final result, it didn't quite... It becomes muddy. There's too much shading, so that's kind of the big thing there. Good. I'm glad to hear that, Jack. I'm glad. I am glad. Good news is good. I'm scraping together all the energy I have for this right now. So my attention is weak, but I'm trying. I'm glad to hear it went well. I know Fridays can be difficult to make, but I got to find a day that works for me as best I can. And it's why I eventually want to do other ones. Other streams, if I can. Let's put the top hat there. Actually, Jack, seems that Cody, other Cody, that you've met through Discord, I have another friend named Cody, to clear up the confusion. Multiple Codys. And he apparently also had the same plans, Jack, on his own, so yay. Yeah, it's good to have the end of the week, Friday, be for good things. My week's been pretty stressful, so this has actually also been on a good note, so that's why I'm drawing characters. We could go more into the, okay, yeah, I gotta figure out what textures his wings are made out of. My instinct is to make his wings out of, like, a kite. Like, to literally put, like, little rods and the cloth between it. Maybe a little tail, little streamers. Kind of want to make his wings out of a kite. That's my instinct, at least. I'll, see how that works. Trying to figure out what objects work out. Yeah, it seems like it, Birb. Seems like it. I'm happy for people. That is good. Oh, interesting. Interesting, Birb. Happy to hear that. For me, I have just been driving around a lot and getting sick. But it has been nice being outside. The weather has been good. It's finally cooling down. And it rained. So that was nice. Yeah. I think I can make his clothespin spikes a little more obvious here. There we go. There we go. Okay. I still don't know what I'm going to make his... I agree with that. 100%, Birb. I much prefer the cool weather. Okay, so let's, for now, just put the little wooden rods. Actually, it tends to be plastic, I think, when it comes to a kite. Maybe if anyone has flown a kite in recent years, you can correct me. There's a mosquito in front of me. Ew. But, go away. Bad bug. But from what I can remember with flying a kite, there's little wooden rods. Maybe they are plastic. But I'm going to do that. I'm going to try to figure out how they're connected. But yes, this dragon is basically made out of a hodgepodge of random items. Probably should draw his other horn, his other toilet paper roll. Let's draw that a little bit. There we go. And because it's further away, it's going to be a little bit smaller, and I don't want it to compete with the other ones. So let's only put it like here. Let's leave a little bit of a gap. I'm going to leave this gap right here because I like that. It looks right. To me, at least. I think I'll still have the diagonals, the little corrugations. You know, whenever you take that toilet paper roll and you rip all the toilet paper off and you get the little roll left, there's those little diagonal swirls on it. That's what we're talking about. That instantly makes it look like a toilet paper roll. And here, these are probably paper towels. So, it's far away. I don't really think I'm going to add much in the way of shading on it because it's really far away. I don't want you to look at it much. So we're just doing that. The spikes are closer. And if I need to, I can probably erase like a little outline so that the further away spike is kind of fading. Don't be afraid to erase lines completely. That can actually have a cool effect. Notice how there's a little halo of eraser around the spikes. It kind of helps. So, yeah. That way it looks like the spike is further away. But maybe I do still want it to have a little bit of weight. Again, you got to experiment. And I think I do still want a little bit of weight here. Just to match the other one. Because now if they both have it, it'll feel like they match. There we go. I think that works. Okay, we've got that. And, guess I gotta bite the bullet and figure out what the kite looks like. I know with dragons, they essentially are like bats. You think of bats, they each have their little fingers, which are the support of the wing. Like that. So there's one set of fingers. The other set of fingers are going to go this way. They fan outward. And they are legit fingers. If you look at the anatomy, the skeleton of a bat, they have their little hands. They're literally just little hands. Wyvern, it's a type of dragon, so I'll say that. But yes, bat anatomy is the closest way to figure that out in a pinch. Because I know finding examples when it comes to something that's fantasy, you kind of have to mix and match from other sources. So, yeah, he doesn't really have much shoulder, though. Gonna have to figure something out for that. Because these are really stick arms. If this is made out of a kite. Maybe that's his charm, I don't know. We'll figure it out. But these are the supports of the kite. Or a tent. Maybe it's just a tent. Trying to think about a place for the little streamers. You know, the little, you got little ribbons tied for the tail of a kite. Let's just do that. Maybe to remind you that this is a kite. Maybe it will look random. Who knows? Maybe that's what I want. So, then we just have a wiggly string to emphasize that tail. It also looks like he's just dancing. And he has little streamers. So that's okay too. I'm going to shrink him down just a little bit so he fits on the page. There we go. Because I want to have room for that other streamer. And if you're worried about where the streamer's going to go, you can draw the string first and then erase where the little ribbons are going to go. Up here, I did the opposite. Here, I'm going to do it this way. I'm going to draw the string, and now I'm going to put little circles for where the knot is tied for these little ribbons. If we want to make them more realistic, we can kind of make them square, because that's the way a ribbon would be shaped if you have them tied around the string. There we go. I like that. Okay. Put little... And notice there's a little bit of a dip in the end of the bow. That's because it's folded inward. It's being pulled. And the cloth fold is going to be right at the center where you have the knot. Because it's pulling on the cloth. And I've talked once or twice about cloth on Patreon. So this is a little bit of review. But basically, you're figuring out what's happening to the cloth, and only put folds where you have things pulling on each other. So, again, it's figuring about where objects interlap, or overlap. Interact, overlap. I'm surprised I'm doing this well for my sick brain. Yay! And this is the highlight of my day. This is fun. We already are getting 2 characters done. If you guys have any more objects, household objects that you think would fit really well on this dragon, let me know. Got a limited time. This is your chance to input the design of this dragon, and it will be immortalized. You will then have a say in creating him. Because then I might do fan art of him later. My little pet corrugate, the wyvern. And I understand doing more art stuff. Hopefully I have that effect, or at least give you that idea. In that case, mission success. People should draw more often, should do art things. Actually, anything creative. Doesn't matter what it is. If it's the chance for you to be creative, then it's good. There we go. And I'm doing more, I'm kind of adding more folds here, more little wiggles between each flap of the wing. A kind of sock. Huh, well, we already have a cloth texture here. Can I turn this into a sock? Let's try it. Let's try that. I'm going to make a copy of the dragon, the wyvern, and now let's literally make a sock. Now it's really confusing as to how big this guy is, but let's have fun with that. How am I going to make this look like a sock? Ooh, okay, this is weird, but let's do it. You got to experiment, and I like that challenge. So, there's the heel of the sock. Okay, this is upside down, but there's the heel. And there are the toes. Maybe this is a tube sock. So let's have the little lines that go up a tube sock. I don't know about you guys, but I find tube socks very uncomfortable. They may look nice with some types of outfits. And I would definitely give a character tube socks if it looked right. But in my experience wearing tube socks, oof. They're a nightmare to wear. No me gusta. No me gusta para nada. I do not like tube socks to wear. They can look fine. But okay. Does that look like a sock? I hope. Which we're going to add a little bit of hatching there to make this look like the stitching of a cloth texture. Also, it's just kind of shading to remind you of socks there. Hey, I'm glad you like them. That means that the tube sock industry will have customers. I am glad. For me, they're just so uncomfortable. I always take off tube socks in pain. So they don't like me. Maybe that's it. Maybe I like tube socks, but they don't like me. They always hurt me. Who hurt you? It was the tube sock. Okay. Maybe you can tell that's a tube sock. Maybe that just looks weird. I think you can kind of tell. The challenge is that it's upside down. So maybe if he were upside down, you could tell it was a normal sock. I think rounding the edge of it will help a little bit there. Definitely noticing a shoe pattern here now. So I already gave him a pair of shoes right up here. He has a shoe nose. And now he's got a giant sock as his neck. Interesting. Okay. Now, for his shoulders, I want to give him shoulder pads. That sounds cool. What would his shoulder pads be made out of? In the meantime, I'll draw more texture on his wings. What would his... I could put duct tape on him somewhere. Let's put some duct tape on him. Where should we put the duct tape? Maybe his shoulders are made out of duct tape. Let's do that. I'm going to put some duct tape there, which are basically going to be a lot of rectangles. Overlapping rectangles with squiggly edges. That's how you make it look like tape. They're going to be overlapping in different directions, and that is duct tape. Let's do it on the other side as well. I was kind of thinking of like dinner plates or something, but I don't know if I really like that look. I'm also sick, so my brain doesn't think as alertly as I'd like it. But okay, there's some duct tape holding him together. I don't like that shape. Maybe this one's kind of outstretched at a weird angle. There we go. I like that better. There we go. There's some duct tape. Okay. I guess it will need a little bit of shading to make it look like duct tape, because usually duct tape is kind of a gray texture, gray color. Words. Okay. Any last minute objects? We can probably find a way to put them all over him, just in random places to make it look fun. Any ideas for... Oh, that doesn't look right. Yeah, it made him look, made it look like a totally different texture. See? Sometimes you don't want shading. Shading can distract. So any other textures you guys have in mind? Okay. There's more duct tape. And I can probably put a few more clothespins coming up here. A hanger. Okay. Let's see. I can probably put that around. Ooh, I think I know where to put that. Good. Yeah, we're just needing to come up with random household objects at this point. Just, ooh, actually, we already have the shape for a hanger. Good. Good. That worked well, Birb. That works well. It's literally just kind of like folded, like it's kind of bent. We have some wire hangers that get bent a lot around our house. That sounded weird. Anyway, I'm sick. I don't claim to be thinking correctly. And there we go. There's the hanger. Wraps around. Don't really want to add that much shading though. It almost looked like shading. Let's keep it light. Again, the more shading you put, the more someone's going to look at it. And I don't want people to look at it that intensely. There we go. He is being held together by a hanger. That sounds very structurally sound. There we go. I like that. I like that. I don't know what that chest is either right now. There's our hanger. Usually there's a little bit of an end on it because it's folded. There we go. Huh. Let me look around my room. I don't have much around my room. Somehow my room is crowded, yet I don't have many objects. Let's see. A book? Let me try a book. Let me just put a random book here. There we go. Maybe it'll be, what's a good book title? Something with dragons in it. Maybe it's a D&D book. That way I can put the word dragon in this. Dungeons. How do I draw the little ampersand? Is that it? No, that's a music note. How do you draw an and sign? I can never draw that. There we go. I did it. Proud of me, Mom? There we go. And then, I almost wrote dungeons again. Come on. Come on, brain. Dragons. And yes, he's a wyvern, but hey, in my mind, that's a subcategory of dragons is wyvern. So there. Dungeons and Dragons book. That is what his chest is made out of. Here are the pages. It's probably not good for the book, but it looks right, so there. Dungeons and Dragons book. Ironically, the spine is opposite of his spine, but oh well. And got that there. Might be a couple objects here. Good. Toast sounds delicious. I like that idea. Making me hungry, Alex. I'm very easily made hungry, so there is also that. And I might need to wind this down. I think we've got a good amount for 2 characters. And he might be a work in progress, because there's a lot of objects here, and I want to continue building him. Because I feel like we need more objects on him. More random household objects. I kind of thought about putting a vacuum cleaner on him somehow. Like his neck and torso was a vacuum cleaner. I don't know. I think it's a good amount of objects for now. It'll be placeholder. Because I'll also need to put his booty, his legs, and then his tail. We'll have to figure out what that is for now. For now, I'll just add those lines to hint that more of him will be created at a future date. Okay, that's good for now. Okay, I'll continue to clean this up. If you guys have any last-minute questions or objects I can add to him, or just art stuff you want to see very quickly, so I think I need to wind it down. My headache is starting to return. And also, we've hit a good amount of time. Got to do a 1 hour, 30 minutes, which is good. I like that. I feel good on my conscience if I'm at least able to do this per week, because this is also a paid event. So, yeah. I kind of want to give him some shoes here, too. Because I can see his back foot. Yeah, let's just draw a shoe. Which has a little arc in it. I'm trying to figure out the right size. There we go. There we go. A little bit of an arc there. Once again, I'm going to do Converse because I love the look of Converse. Maybe the tongue is kind of sticking out of the shoe. Is it called a tongue? I think it is. That little flap near the shoelace. I think it's called a tongue. Unless I just made that up. That's fine too. Go like this for the bottom, the sole of the shoe. And as I recall, the back end of that has a little raised part. There we go. He's wearing shoes. He's a cool wyvern. I almost said dragon. If wyvern is more accurate, I want to respect his title. There we go. And might help if I draw the little holes in the shoe first. That way I can make sense of it and plan out how far apart they are. Then I can worry about the actual laces, because I'm already noticing a problem on the top lace. Also, they won't be tied because that's fun to draw. It's no fun if they're already tied. He likes to live life on the edge. Normally they should be crossed, though. That's a good point. Good point. Okay. At this point, I'm like having dialogues with myself, trying to make sure I'm on track. My brain is, yeah, it's fuzzy. There we go. There we go. Draw the top one, and then the bottom one kind of comes in at a different angle. Now the laces look crossed. Like my eyes. There we go. Yeah, that makes sense. I think that makes sense. There's a little bit of an overlap here, so I can probably put some shading at the top of his shoe. So yeah, think about where objects overlap, and think about where you want the audience to look. That's a big thing there. Ah, good, I got the tongue right. Thank you, Bird. You're double checking me. You're the fact checker. At least when it comes to shoes. And a lot of things, actually. I don't want this lineup of his shoe and his foot. I want there to be a little bit of an overlap. I don't want them to line up too much. That way they look separate. There we go. I need to come up with a term for that, but the way objects interact with each other, if the intersection of two objects lines up like this, it'll look very odd. It'll look like they're fused together, and I don't want that. So I want this. That's a kind of a complicated thing, but I'll have to teach that one day. Figure it out. And it's the inside of the Converse that has the star, I think. Which, there we go. There's the star. Let's draw that. And I think all the edges are close, so I can do a fill. There we go. Fill? Like the groundhog fill? Like the groundhog fill. There we go. Did you see your shadow? Alrighty, I think we got it. There's a little bit of a texture on the bottom of the shoe. Yeah. So if there's anything to take away from this lesson, my biggest thing would be, if you're ever going to shade a picture, think first. Ask yourself, where do you want the audience to look? Where on the character do you want the audience to look first? Try to add the most shading there, in the right places. Then you can slowly add shading in other places, but think about that first. That will help a lot. It also applies to lighting, though, because if it's a face, if you want the audience to look at the face, and obviously adding a bunch of shadows would mess up the face if you can't see it. So, also adding all of the highlights, all the lighting, all the bright colors. Add that specifically on the face first, if you want them to look at the face. Basically, put all the attention to the parts that you want them to look at, then move on to the rest of the parts. Because I've seen myself and other people put all this effort into, like, say, this shoe. And say you spent an hour on this shoe. Meanwhile, they're probably going to want to look at the head first. So actually, save your time for where you want them to look. That's my biggest thing for this episode. And then I've talked about a bunch of little things in this that hopefully helped as well. So, there we go. We got Corgate. Let me make a copy of him and move him over so that we can see both side by side before we end the episode. There's our Corgate. Is that big enough? I think it's big enough because I want to fit them both. Maybe I'll just slide him over like this. See where Mr. Fit is. Okay, he's right there. There he is. Alright, we got them overlapped. But here's my emphasis on the page right now. We put more shading on Mr. Fit, so you're going to look at Mr. Fit first. Fit first. Then you'll look at Corgate, because it looks like he's farther away, because his shading isn't as strong. That's kind of the whole theory of with shading, is it doesn't have to be super realistic. Think about your goal first. Hopefully that'll help your pictures a lot. And my voice is very tired, so I will call it a night for today. Hopefully this was interesting enough. Hopefully there was some giggles, maybe. And my brain is too fuzzy to think further. Yeah. I hope this was fun. I like talking about this. I'm noticing more and more little tricks I do in my pictures that hopefully make sense. And I like welcoming your questions anytime you guys have them. Hopefully the job will be soon, but at the same time, that's when all the chaos will happen because I don't know what my schedule is going to be. So, thank you all for watching. Hope this was fun. Remember to support me on Patreon if you like what I do here, because I give away extra prizes and one-on-one lessons like this if you're over on Patreon. So thank you again, everybody. My name is Pin Bun Boy Guy, and I will see you all next time. Bye-bye. Go drink some water.